In previous video, we have studied about the transpiration, its types, and the difference between monocot and dicot leaves. Today, we have to study the different experiments demonstrating the process of transpiration. So, we have to study here according to the aim of the experiments. We have to mention different types of experiments like experiment 1. We have to write here aim of the experiment to show that transpiration takes place through aerial parts of the plant, through aerial parts of plant. Now for this one, this aim of the experiment, we have two experiments. The first experiment, now this is the experimental setup in which we see that we take a small garden plant like suppose balsam plant. Now its aerial part is enclosed within the polythene bag and the pot is kept uncovered. Then the first point is asked that why is the pot kept uncovered? Then we write here that is the pot is kept uncovered to prevent water evaporated from the soil from entering into the polythene bag. Now, so this is the first question, first reason. Now the setup is kept in sunlight for few hours, and then after few hours we observe that the colorless liquid droplets or water droplets are condensed on the inner surface of the polythene bag. This liquid can be tested as water with the help of blue cobalt chloride paper or anhydrous copper sulfate. If we place this liquid on blue cobalt chloride paper, then it will turn pink, indicating that this liquid is water. And second, if we place this liquid on anhydrous copper sulfate, then it will turn white to blue. This also indicates that this is water. So there are two tests to confirm that the liquid droplets which are colorless are water and has lost from the aerial part of the plant. So we have to write here observation after few hours of keeping the setup in sunlight, colorless liquid droplets or water condense on the inner surface of the polythene bag. So we see that from aerial part of the plant water is evaporated. Now the next question is asked related to the experiment about the control setup. What is control? As in the previous chapter we have studied about control experiment. In control experiment, the result has to be compared, that if there is the absence of any one factor, then the process will not proceed. So what will be the control? An empty polythene bag inflated and tied at the mouth, mouth is kept in sunlight. Now in this case you will observe that after few hours there is no liquid droplet on its wall. Thus we see that since there is no plant part or aerial part of the plant inside the polythene bag, so there was no evaporation of water, there is no transpiration, and hence there is no condensing of water droplet. So this experiment indicates that transpiration takes place through aerial parts of the plant. Clear, student? Now, for the same aim of the experiment, we have another experiment, second experiment related to it. That is also known as bell jar experiment. Again, we take a well-watered potted plant and cover it with bell jar. Now, this is the setup. In setup A, you see, we take a well-watered potted plant. It is enclosed within the pot is kept enclosed within a polythene bag, but the aerial part this time is kept uncovered. It is covered with then bell jar, and around the bottom of the bell jar some wax or grease is applied to make it airtight. This is wax or grease which will make it airtight. Now, in the second part, that is in B, we have not taken the plant, but here is also the cobalt chloride paper. This will be taken as the control. Now, just we can explain it. Again, why is the pot enclosed within the polythene bag? Again, like that of the first experiment, we have to prevent water evaporated from the soil from entering into the bell jar such that it cannot interfere with the result. So, here the pot is enclosed within the polythene bag, to prevent water evaporated from the soil, from entering into the bell jar. So this is the first question. Now, when the setup is kept in sunlight, then after few hours we have to write its observation. So we see here, that is, after keeping the setup in sunlight for few hours, water droplets or colorless liquid droplets condense on the wall of bell jar and the cobalt chloride paper turns pink. So this change in color of the cobalt chloride paper indicates that this liquid is water, and it has come due to evaporation from the aerial part of the plant. In setup B, that is in B, there is no change in color of cobalt chloride paper and no condensed water droplets. This indicates that this setup acts as the control experiment. Clear, student? So we have studied the first aim of the experiment, that is to show that there is a transpiration taking place through aerial parts of the plant. Clear, student? Now we will study the another aim of the experiment. The next aim of the experiment is to show that there are more stomata on the lower surface of dorsiventral leaf, or there is more transpiration taking place from the lower surface, under surface of dorsiventral leaf. So here the aim is to show that there are more stomata on the lower surface of dorsiventral leaf, also known as dicot leaf. So according to this aim of the experiment, again we have two types of experimental setup. In first experimental setup, we take a well watered potted plant. Now, student, we see here that we take a well-watered potted plant, and on one of the leaf we place a stripe of blue cobalt chloride paper on the upper and lower surface and fix it firmly with the help of glass slide and the clip. This is then supported with the help of a stand such that due to the weight of the slide, the leaf should not be broken or plucked. Now the setup is kept in sunlight. After few hours of observation, we see here observation. After few hours of keeping the setup in sunlight, we see that the cobalt chloride paper on the lower surface turns more pink, or turns pink at faster rate. So we see right here, that is the cobalt chloride paper on the lower surface turns more pink, or turns pink at faster rate than on the upper surface. So this is our observation. But after explaining the observation, the question is asked that give reason for the above observation. Then what is the reason? Just actually reason is according to the aim of the experiment. So the reason is that there are more stomata on the lower surface, hence more transpiration takes place takes place from the lower surface. From the lower surface. As a result, cobalt chloride paper on the lower surface absorbs more water vapor and turns more pink. So this is the reason behind the observation. So we have placed cobalt chloride paper on both the surfaces, but since there are more stomata on the lower surface, so more transpiration takes place. More water is evaporated from the lower surface of the leaf, which is in turn absorbed by the cobalt chloride paper. As a result, it shows more color change. It shows more change in color from blue to pink, or it changes its color at faster rate. So this is the aim of the experiment. Now, a student, we have another experiment related to this same aim of the experiment. In this experiment, we take 4 dorsiventral leaf of a plant and suspend them with the help of a string in sunlight under experimental condition. We place wax on the tip of the petiole to prevent evaporation of water from that part. So in this part we see the arrangement has to be made like this. So in this setup we see we take 4 dorsiventral leaf of a plant. In case A, in leaf A, wax is applied on both surfaces, upper and lower surface. In B, the wax is applied on the upper surface. In C, the wax is applied on the lower surface only. And in D, no wax is applied. Then, at the tip of the petioles, we also apply wax to prevent water evaporation from that part. Now, the 4 leaves are waved separately and then suspended with the help of this string in the sunlight. After few hours, we take out the 4 leaves and waved again. Their weight is compared with their initial weights, and then we observe, we see, that is observation. First, we write here, in first case, the question is asked in which case there is minimum loss in weight. So in case A, there is minimum loss in weight because the wax is applied on both surfaces. So there will be no transpiration. So minimum loss in weight for A due to lack of transpiration. That is, in case A, there is no loss of water since the wax is applied on both surfaces. Now, in case D, there is maximum loss in weight because there is no wax application, wax is not applied, so transpiration is taking place from both the surfaces. So, there is maximum loss in weight for D because transpiration takes place from both surfaces. So we have compared A and D for the minimum and for the maximum. But in between B and C, we observe that in B, wax is applied on upper surface. So transpiration is taking place from the lower surface. In C, wax is applied on the lower surface. So transpiration is taking place from the upper surface. So in between B and C, there is more loss in weight in B, and that is in B, transpiration is taking place from the lower surface because there are more stomata on the lower surface. So more transpiration is taking place in B. So thus this setup indicates that there are more stomata on the lower surface of dorsiventral leaf. As a result, there is more transpiration taking place from it. So we have discussed the two aim of the experiment. Now there is one more experiment. Now there is the third type of experiment to show that water is lost by transpiration through cut shoot. We take a small shoot, we cut it obliquely by dipping in water. The shoot is cut obliquely to provide large surface area for sucking of water, and it is cut by dipping in water to prevent air from entering into the capillary tube, into the xylem vessel. So in this part we see that we cut a small twig with the help of sharp knife obliquely, and then it is placed in tube containing water. Now on the surface of this water we also place oil. This is the setup A. As a setup B, that will be for the control, we just take water, not the twig, and then again the oil is placed on its surface. This is setup B. Now in this experimental setup we can perform the experiment in two ways. One, by weighing method, that is this setup, the tube, by placing in beaker on a spring balance, we can take its initial weight, and at the end of the experiment we will again weigh the setup. We will observe that there is loss in weight. Second method, we can mark its initial level of water. When the setup is placed in sunlight, then the water is lost by transpiration through aerial part, which is in turn sucked by this part. Hence there is decrease in level of water, that is the final level. This indicates that water is lost by transpiration through this twig. So the setup is kept in sunlight. What is the purpose of putting oil on the surface? So oil on the surface of water prevents its loss by evaporation, direct evaporation. So this is the purpose of putting the oil. Now, what is observation? Now, observation. We can take the second method, just I am writing second method, that is after few hours, of keeping the setup in sunlight, the level of water in tube A decreases. This is the observation. Or if we take the weighing method, then there will be decrease in weight of the tube A. What will be the reason behind it? Because after observation, we also need to write its reason. The question is asked related to it. So we can say here, that is, the water is lost by transpiration through cut soot, which is in turn absorbed, or we can write here absorbed or sucked from tube in A. But in case B, there is no change in level, no change in weight or level of water. The reason is that there will be no evaporation taking place from the free surface, as well as due to the absence of cut soot, there is no transpiration taking place. So this setup acts as the control. It acts as the control setup. Control. Clear, student? So we have discussed here various experiments demonstrating the process of transpiration. Now, if this diagram based question on plant physiology is frequently asked. Now, if we study all these things carefully and as well as point to point, we will see that all the types of questions given in your exercise or the asked in board exams will be clearly answered in this sequence. Clear, student? In the next part, we will study about pottometer. Okay, thank you.